Hello, distinguished guests and speakers. I want to welcome you to the AI Expo. I want to thank Nick and his team for organizing this phenomenal event. I wish you all have a chance to hear and learn some things new about AI and innovation and research, and I'm sure you'll hear more many of the interesting topics that impact some of your work, okay, and how that could be helpful, and this could help you with the collaborations and partnerships. Today, I'm going to talk about eNubia. eNubia is a it's a startup, and the initiative is focused on helping African universities commercialize their research innovations. Right now, as we're sitting, Africa gets less than 1% of the global research, or they produce less than 1% of the global research. And out of the 1%, a big part of that comes from South Africa, obviously with the history behind the institutions in South Africa that they have the capacity to do that. The research is going on all over the continent. A lot of it's impactful. Some of it's just collecting dust. What eNubia does is we partner with our university partners to commercialize research innovations that can solve African challenges, right? And for myself, my team, that's very, very important, because as the continent scales from 1.3 billion to 2 billion people, there are going to be a lot of challenges that a lot of us are going to face. We're going to have demographic boom. It's going to be climate change, and we're going to have a potential for impact for livelihood and jobs. And we need to find opportunities for this demographic shift, right? So one of the things that our team and I are focused on is taking some of this research, some of the innovation, and create indigenous African companies, right? There's no reason why in 20 years we have our own African versions of 3M or Google or Microsoft or General Electric or SAP, all these global established companies, a lot of them were born from the research labs, right? And that's where eNubia plays, right? That part of commercialization where you're creating indigenous African companies is very paramount to creating jobs, creating livelihoods, and focus on solving African problems by using our research, right? And a lot of people don't realize that a lot of our researchers, most of them, 65% of them at least, were educated outside of Africa. So it's not as if these PhD students or these PhDs holders who were educated in the West, in the UK, US, North America, and most recently, a lot have been going over to Asia, China. A lot of these guys come back, they teach, they do research, they're smart, and they're looking for partners. So what eNubia does is we help them, we partner with them, we help them get that research to the next level, right? Through commercialization. Now, when you talk about commercialization, there's the tech transfer where you're just taking technology and it's one form of commercialization. You're taking innovation and research, and that's transferred to another entity, i.e., Airbus, Boeing, SAP, Ford, that sort of thing. We are focused more on the impacting and creating indigenous African companies. I don't mind some of the research do go and they make somebody else wealthy, but for me, I rather focus on creating as many jobs as possible and creating as many opportunities as possible on the continent. As I said, if we're going to go from 1.3 billion to 2 billion people, we're going to need to create a lot of jobs. There's going to be a lot of people. We need to feed people. We need innovative research to create these new to create new sources of food or to grow more food, right? The continent is rich. There's various regions where certain products grow or certain crops grow. We need research to grow more crop resistant crops that can feed our people, and research needs to be born to that effect, right? So all this research is going on, and a lot of these researchers need help, but that's where eNubia comes in, right? And to go on with that, we use our diaspora networks. We have a great, phenomenal network of diaspora. And these are our force multipliers, if I use a military term. We use the diaspora to support scaling some of these innovations and research. Some of our diaspora are lawyers, they're engineers, they're professionals, and some of these guys actually work in global multinationals. So what we do is we ran a little pilot, obviously with what happened last year. I don't want to use COVID as an excuse. We had a really shrink some of our operations, but we use the diaspora as a leverage, or we utilize their experience to help African universities and the researchers scale some potential innovations through a platform that we have built up. Now, when you're talking about groundbreaking research that has impact, that has a potential to impact livelihoods, that has a potential to cure tropical diseases, that has the potential to create an opportunity to build wealth on the continent. That's African. That is, you can, when you're driving down the road, when you're walking, you can say, wow, that person I know built that. That person built, had the opportunity to create that. You can be proud as an African. It doesn't matter where you're from. If you're from Burundi, you're from Malawi, from Egypt, Morocco, Ghana, Nigeria. So that's where eNubia falls into. We are looking for partners. So we have got some really good partnerships to help these African universities scale their innovations and research. So it happens because this is an AI forum. AI now is ubiquitous. Is in almost everything that we use. IoT, our mobile phones, some of the consumer electronic products you're using. A lot of that's those items, those products were born from research and innovation, right? There's a researcher in Silicon Valley, or in the UK, or in Germany, or in Russia, came up with an innovation, and through university partnerships, through a public-private partnership, they were able to scale that, right? The continent needs to do this. There are some efforts going on the ground, but it needs to be scaled. There needs to be exponential growth, right? This exponential growth needs to happen now. Everybody keeps talking about the fourth industrial revolution, the fifth industrial revolution. For us, my team, my partners, my advisory board, we don't really care what you want to call it. As if you're not looking at the future, if you're not planning for the next 20 years to solve these challenges that we have, right? Is really gonna make life difficult for the vulnerable. But I don't want to be. I'm an optimist. I'm a pragmatic optimist. I really believe there's an opportunity for impactful research that can create a lot of jobs, right? And the way we do that is engaging people in the diaspora, right? So yeah, and that's the heart of what we do. We commercialize research, we partner with our diaspora, and we scale it. Now, some of the research that we've looked at, or we're partnered with some of our university partners, some of them make that scale. I have to be honest. So there's I think less than 5% of global research has the opportunity to be commercialized, and commercialization is basically sort of given this definition at the beginning, is basically taking research innovation and scaling it, or it can be. I talked about the tech transfer piece. That's just somebody buying research, but there's opportunity to actually commercialize it, where you work with your students, you work with faculty, you work with an outside professional, and you scale that research. And it could be a startup, it can be a medium-sized enterprise, it can scale into somebody's supply chain, right? Those are types of opportunities. Those are types of things that happen in the West that need to happen more on the continent in Africa, right? And this is, when we're talking about startups, when you're talking about early stage enterprises, the youths are starting to get this. This is one of the things that we're trying to work with some of our universities to say, hey, work with us. It's very important that you make your research interesting, you make it exciting for your graduate students or students to get into to work with you on. Now, we got some proprietary things that we're working on to be able to reach youth, because let's face it, most research, it's, if you're not a scientist or engineer or rocket scientist, if you're not Elon Musk, most research is kind of I don't want to say it can be boring, right? But if you know what you're looking for, if you have a good team, you got good partners, there's some really good research out there, right? And I'll give you some examples of some research we're working on. One couple of universities I know are working on nanotechnology. Somebody has a background in material science, and she's working on an innovation or technology that can make wind blades on a fan bend less. Basically, wind blades are running 300,000 RPM per minute. Over time they do bend, but she has a way to sort of keep it from not or for basically lasting longer. I don't know the terminology she was using. Another researchers working on energy storage. They're looking at ways you can store energy through some really ingenious way. Another researcher is working on ag tech. Some things are going on quantum computing. And last but not least, AI and machine learning. I've got a friend of mine. He's working on machine learning, computer vision. In Ghana, University Ghana Legon. So happens, yes, also teach. He doesn't have a lot of time to do research, but this is something that he's been working on for a couple of years. And actually, that's one point I want to make. There are a lot of researchers. A lot of the PhDs who teach, they also want to do research. Sometimes they're doing research on the side, but if you're a young PhD professor at you're teaching in a university, you're sort of the fresh man. You're the new person coming in. You're a lecturer, right? And you have to actually show you have to go through the growing pains before you get more opportunity. A lot of these guys who before they come into a university they're doing research, and they've been doing research, right? So we have there's some challenges there, but there's some opportunities there too. And the thing that we have to remind ourselves is we as a continent, we can't just keep importing products and services without an African footprint on it, right? If you're talking about AI and machine learning, there's plenty of people on the continent who are doing some really interesting things, and we need to have a brand print on the product or service that could say, okay, if you're selling a computer from one of these global Western companies, how come we can't train our own engineers to support that effort, right? I know a colleague of mine who's speaking at this panel, John Kamara. He's trying to train. He has plans. He has some really ambitious plans. John Kamara. You'll hear from him either before me or after me. He has plans to train 5,000 AI engineers in 5 years, right? So 1,000 per year. Those are pretty ambitious, but if you think about it, that's actually not much compared to where the continents they go. 1,000 divided by 55 countries, 54 countries, not a lot. Obviously, there are some countries that may not have the capacity because of fragility or conflict, but still, that's not an excuse. We can't make excuses. We don't have time to make excuses. The time is now. We have to. There has to be a concerted effort to look at a continent, and the continent has changed quite a bit compared to where we were 20, 10, even 5 years ago. And AI will help, but we also need to also focus on impactful research. Can AI help with growing more food? Can AI help with I talked about the lady who's doing nanotechnology. Can AI help her with with that? Can AI help with I mean, quantum computing is we've reached the limits on Moore's law, meaning everything after Moore's law has got to go quantum because of the physical aspects of getting this really small is quantum. So there are some researchers working at, but for me, I like to look at I like to keep things simple, right? And look at things that really what we can do that can really scale, right? And that's where eNubia falls in, So, I've got a few more minutes, and I think I want to talk about the last part. The last part of the last part of what I want to talk about is more about, making sure that there's a an opportunity. I'll talk a couple of things. One is making sure we have an opportunity to build collaborative partnerships, number one, and two, finding opportunities to create employment for our youth, right? If we don't work together, if we don't collaborate with each other, we're not going to solve some of the pressing needs that are going to hunt us down the road, right? Case in point, climate change, food security, and all that. There's opportunities to use research, use AI to mitigate these climate effects. As we're speaking, globally, there's depending on where you live in the world, there's fire, there's the polar ice caps are melting. Fortunately for Africa, we don't really have that many fires. Well, we do have drought, right? Climate change is affecting all of us. We need to collaborate with each other. We need to partner with each other so that we're scaling innovations. We're using research with the help of AI that can solve our problems, right? That's one. The last part is our youth. We have to make this world a better place than when we found it. That's number one thing. And also we have to create opportunity for the youth so that they can benefit from research and innovation, right? If you look at the West, if you look at how research and innovation is a bedrock for scaling great world-renowned companies, we need to do the same thing, and eNubia wants to be a player. We want to be a partner. We want to be a collaborator. We want to enable the youth. When I say youth, we're talking about college graduates. We're talking about able-bodied people. We're talking about high school graduates. Anybody's working in STEM. Women, girls. This should be like a Marshall Plan for Africa. We need all hands on deck, right? And as much as some people say, let's look at the governments and get the EU involved. These entities are stretched, but the diaspora holds a lot of promise. They have the clout, they have the experience, some of these guys are actually doing impact investment, right? Actually, that's actually a good segue. You know, we directly we haven't really done this much, but some of the diaspora actually run their own funds. Whereas an angel fund, a PE fund, VC fund, I can actually see an opportunity where, we plan on doing this, but we just don't want to. You know, we're not. I don't know if we want to set up. We want to be a conduit to set up to do risk capital investments, but you know, we've seen this with a couple of pilots, but a lot of diaspora who are have looked at some of the research and in some cases mentored or helped some of these researchers. They've actually said, look, this is something my firm wants to do. This is something that I would like to do. I actually wouldn't mind taking some of my own personal money and invest in this idea, because guess what? I see the opportunity with that, right? Now, when you get to that point, you know, when you have somebody that says, we like what you're doing, we want to put money in it because we see a promise, that's when you know you have the aha moment, right? So yeah, that's what eNubia is striving for. We help universities commercialize research. I should say tertiary institutions. Tertiary institutions, if you're university, college, research institute, we help you commercialize the research innovation. We are a business. We take equity for what we can't commercialize, and then there are things that we want to do going down the road to make it more sustainable. So I want to thank you for listening to what I have to say. And I want to thank Nick and his team for putting together a phenomenal forum. And I hope to hear from all of you soon. And you guys take care, be safe, and I will see you soon. This is Nee Simmonds. Take care. Bye-bye.